My name is Bryan, and coming to you live with Let's Build Your Marketing Map. Well, I say marketing, but it's kind of shifted a lot more to a business map, HubSpot map, AI, a little bit of everything because you know me. What's the fun of staying in one space? And today, I'm going to keep it a little bit briefer just because I know there's a whole bunch going on, as always during January when you get back from the holidays and are just over inundated with everything. You're catching up from December, you're planning for the new year, you're planning for the new quarter, you're trying to get your team aligned, and honestly, you're just not really sure where to begin because your head is in three different places. Well, 20. We know that. So today I just wanted to kind of go with a few different tactics for what you can do to just get that under control and get a little bit more prioritized and kind of slow things down. And the first thing I really wanted to call attention to is just something simple. Just a task management list. And really for this, there's a variety of different tools that you can use, but I would recommend using whatever you have in place right now. Whether that is using ClickUp or Asana or Jira, or even if it's just your calendar or HubSpot, just track everything you want to do and spend an hour or two doing it. And I'm not recommending this for the aspect of just overkilling yourself with the different task management, but it's more from a perspective of making sure you're spending the right amount of time in thinking about what you need to get done so nothing gets lost in the cracks. Once you've been able to do that, it becomes a lot easier to prioritize what you need to do and get it done accordingly and get the happy little enthusiasm we get from clicking off the check marks. Number two is getting your head sorted around your work, and what that looks like is going to vary very widely depending on who you are and what you're working on. And I know that sounds very vague because in all honesty, it is, and it's intended to be, because I know I'm not talking to a single kind of person over here. I'm talking to, honestly, I don't know how many. I don't know how many people are kind of on this on a day-to-day basis, but the concept behind all of it is just making time for yourself and not pushing anything too hard, even though it really seems like there's so much to get caught up on. And there's a lot of value to taking things one step at a time, and again, in using with the task management feature that we were just talking about, using that in order to move things forward one small step at a time. So how can you do that? This is where I'm going to lean into a little bit of an AI tool rant again. And the logic behind that is kind of interweaving in a concept that I kind of refer to more as iteration and the feedback loop, if you will. And when you're trying to get all of this information just out of your head, whether it is related to work or if it's a concept related to a project that you're kicking off, or if you're just trying to get something aligned among several members of your team, the feedback loop is a really good way to apply these skills. And you can do this using really any Gen AI tool that's available to you, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Bird, or some of the internal ones that are leveraged with HubSpot, like Breeze. Although I wouldn't recommend Breeze as much for something like this, since it's a little bit more complex. And the overall concept behind it is to start off with providing the core four things that we've talked about before. So your purpose, your requirements, your context, and your output. Make sure you're providing all of that within your initial prompt, and then within that prompt, ensure to solicit the bot to ask you additional questions so that you're able to provide as much information as you can to the tool so that it can actually provide an output that you want to have. For example, the bot comes back, is going to start off with its age-old, what can I help you with? And if you're trying to sift through a whole bunch of information here, whether that's email or your project load, or you're trying to kick off like remember where you were with a client project that you were halfway done with, it's okay to just kind of say, I'm not sure. I want to get a, I want to get a bearing on where my workload is today. And can you help me with that? I want to turn this into a task list, and I want to turn this into an actionable timeline that I can actually implement over the next 2 weeks. Just for example, your bot's going to respond to you and probably say, great, what information do you currently have that will help me facilitate this process? And that's where you can start providing in all the information from the disparate sources that you're using. So pull in those tasks that you have outstanding in your Asana project. Pull in any calendar invites that you have that you may or may not remember what they are coming up over the next week. Pull in any of the documentation that you might have worked on a couple weeks ago but didn't quite finish, and so you're not fully remembering what you were working on. You pull all of that into the bot and then tell it to ask any clarifying questions, and you'll be in a pretty good place to start getting these things sorted out. Once that's done, you're going to go back and forth, and this conversation is going to take any amount of time and length depending on how simple or complex you want it to be. And over time, and when I say over time, I'm referring to, maybe 20 minutes or so, you'll be able to really provide all the information to the bot that it needs in order to get you to having an output that is effective for you. And that output can be something like creating that task list that we were talking about, as well as just creating maybe a mermaid diagram of a calendar that's going to showcase what you're going to be handling over the next couple of weeks. And then if you have any questions about it, ask the bot. Get that clarification, because that clarification that the bot that you need from it will be able to be answered fairly quickly. And if you have any issues running into it, there's a couple context management features that you can implement as well. And the three that I'll mention here are just, one is a checkpoint technique, one is a reference point, and one is a soft reset. Checkpoint technique is essentially ask to pause, get clarification, assuming if there's alignment, you can move on. Reference point is clarifying a specific point in the conversation and calling out that specific point and asking about it to make sure that there's alignment. And the soft reset is essentially saying, hey, look, what we just worked on, no, that's not quite working for me, and I want to change it up in this way. Those three tactics can really help improve your input output in order to get you a conversation that's more in line with where you want it to be. Now, the last thing I want to really spend some time on is putting together your own, let's call it a personal plan. And you do annual planning for a company very frequently. You may do that for yourself, or you're doing that in combination with a team just to understand what your roadmap is going to look like. And I would encourage you to do this kind of a thing for yourself personally as well. And what that looks like is going to be different to everyone. But essentially, you should focus on what you want to accomplish within the next month, within the next 3 months, and within the next 6 months. I wouldn't encourage you to go really farther than that unless you really know what that's going to look like, mostly because the atmosphere and technology landscape is changing so drastically, so quickly. And when you put this together, keep it short, keep it concise, and keep it very iterable. Because when you do that, you're really giving yourself a space to modify and amend this over time. And that's a good thing, because unlike a lot of these other project points where you're trying to set your clear defined goals and your measurement tools, when it comes to how you're approaching this very tactically from your own sense, that's going to vary. Well, not going to, but is most likely going to vary quite dramatically as you work through it. And that's fine. Spend some time doing it and work on that and go from there. And the last thing, which I'll kind of leave on, which again, I know it's a shorter session today, but I'm working on bringing these down, is just practice. And it doesn't matter what you're practicing, whether that's practicing writing these things down, practicing working with a tool, or if you're taking a new initiative, for example, like streaming, like I've been doing like I've been doing solo for the last, several weeks. Just practice doing it because that's going to help you get better. And that's something that I'm working through myself, as you can see through this whole conversation and the quality of the general recordings over time. Some are great, some are not, and some are somewhere in between. And that's fine. It's all part of the journey. It's all part of the process of bringing everything together. And the best part of that is going to be the learning experience that you have from successes and struggles. And just lean into that. Lean into what you've done well. Lean into what you've had some difficulty with to figure out how you can do it better. And while you're doing that, make sure you're being genuine, make sure you're being authentic, and don't really stray outside that realm. Because as soon as you start doing that, you're going to lose sight of your North Star. And that's really, that's not a place you want to be this year. You want to keep going towards who you are. You want to be pursuing your goals so that you're able to achieve what you want to achieve. And before I step off the motivational soapbox, metaphorically, you want to just make sure that you're spending the time for yourself that you need. So with that, we'll be back next week, and we're going to be chatting here again with Let's Build Your Dumpster Fire here on Wednesday. So be sure to tune in both Wednesday and then again next week as I start diving back into the realm of AI. Other than that, good luck catching up on everything, and have a wonderful year, and we will otherwise chat soon. Take care, all.